vast multiverse. Mr. Strange.
Welcome to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy, and let's talk about all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in the first trailer for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, if you haven't seen SpiderMan No Way Home, then I'm just going to throw in a few very light spoilers, just stuff that you would already know if you've watched the trailers. The trailer begins with some sound bites from No Way Home.
Don't cast that spell. It's too dangerous. Why? We tampered with the stability of space-time. The multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little.
But what's interesting is that Wong saying don't cast that spell was not in the actual movie, but it was in the trailer.
Strange. Don't cast that spell. It's too dangerous.
So this could be from a deleted scene, but more than likely, this is Wong telling Strange not to cast a spell in the Multiverse of Madness. But which Steven is he talking to? Ours or one from the multiverse? And this soundbite.
We tampered with the stability of space-time.
But this line is not referring to any of the events of No Way Home. This is Stephen Strange talking to Peter about the time traveling and finger snaps in Avengers Endgame. And it's interesting that he knows that time travel affected the stability of space-time. Now remember that for later in the trailer. Then the camera pans upward to reveal candles and most likely the summoning altar that Wanda is meditating on later on. I think this is actually a big clue about the movie's secret villain that I'm going to talk about later in the video.
The multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little.
This line is also taken from No Way Home, and it appeared in the trailer.
The multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little.
Now for Doctor Strange to say this means a lot, because remember the magical mystery tour the Ancient One sent him on. And we did a whole video breaking down each of these dimensions, explaining what we think each of them means, and comparing them to the vision that Loki was shown in episode 6 of his show. In that video, we point out that the Ancient One says this.
Who are you in this vast multiverse? Mr. Strange.
So in the MCU, when we talk about the multiverse, that doesn't just mean parallel Earths. It's referring to other planes of reality or universes that don't even obey the same laws of physics. Doctor Strange has seen a glimpse of these other realms firsthand. He traveled to the dark dimension. He knows how dangerous the multiverse is. Then we focus on his broken watch and his reflection as this ticking sound grows louder. Now remember, time was the central theme of the movie Doctor Strange, and not just because it revealed the time stone. The movie was about Stephen learning that his time is finite and he needs to spend his life in the service of others.
Arrogance and fear still keep you from learning the simplest and most significant lesson of all. It's not about you. Death is what gives life meaning. To know your days are numbered. Your time is short.
He even wins the final battle by weaponizing time against Dormammu and by submitting to its power.
You cannot beat a river into submission. You have to surrender to its current and use its power as your own.
The watch was a gift from Christine, and it was broken in his car accident, so it symbolizes attachment to his old life.
Your watch.
No, please. It's all I have left.
It's also what anchors him to humanity. So here, when he sees his reflection in its cracked face, this could be foreshadowing his evil self, Strange Supreme, who has lost all attachment to humanity, and we see him later in the trailer. So I'm going to briefly describe Strange Supreme just in case you haven't seen the show What If. This won't take long. In the show What If, there is an alternate reality where Christine is destined to die in a car accident, and Strange can't save her because this is an absolute point in time. That means that this is an event that cannot be changed or it will threaten reality. But Strange will not accept this, so he goes to learn from Cagliostro, the original guy who wrote the Book of Time and learned to contact the Dark Dimension. Strange builds an altar to trap creatures from the multiverse and absorb their power. But by absorbing monsters, Strange becomes a monster himself. He does succeed in saving Christine, but his entire reality is wiped from existence, turning into darkness, and only he remains. I also wonder if the watch is here to reflect the broken multiverse. Remember, at the end of Loki, we saw the sacred timeline fracture and split off, like the branches of a tree or cracks in a broken mirror. So the next shot shows Strange walking out of a New York alley and then seeing this reality consumed by that same gooey darkness that engulfed the reality of Strange Supreme. Now, I'm going to assume this is not the main Earth of the MCU, but some other Earth that's part of the multiverse. So something is causing the universes to be consumed by the darkness that we saw in What If. And then we hear Baron Mordo.
Your desecration of reality will not go unpunished, unpunished.
Now, if you remember, Mordo was Strange's teacher in his first movie, but the film ended with him being disillusioned by Strange and the Ancient One, and then going off to get rid of all sorcerers.
I see at long last what's wrong with the world. Too many sorcerers.
But I don't think that this is the same Mordo that we see later in the trailer. That Mordo seems to want to work with Strange, or is at least apologetic. That's right, I think that in this movie we are going to see variants of Strange and his supporting cast. This might even be Mordo talking to Wanda about her desecration of reality in WandaVision. And then we hear,
"It was the only way."
And again, this could be another version of Strange, maybe the one who caused this madness to spread throughout the multiverse. Or it could simply be Mordo confronting Steven about using the Time Stone. Next we see Steven walking up the stairs of the Sanctum Sanctorum, but here it's wrecked. I think this is an alternate universe version of the Sanctum where things have gone terribly wrong. Later we'll see more shots from the same location, as Strange says,
"But I never meant for any of this to happen."
Implying that our Steven, or another one, was responsible for the multiversal collapse. This shot is of a Steven touching the window inside the ruined Sanctum, feeling a destructive force being drawn toward him, as we'll see later in the trailer. Or this might be some kind of vision that Steven has that actually sends him across the multiverse, and the vision was sent to him by one of his variants who needs his help. Let's move on. There are a few quick shots. Steven on the street looking up. This is most likely from his battle with this tentacle monster that we see later in the trailer, but more on that in a bit. And here is Wanda, power in her hand, ready to attack. This is Christine getting married, but not to Steven. He is watching her walk down the aisle. He is not the groom. Now notice actually this doctor from the first movie is standing near him right here. In the first movie, Strange has a hard time showing affection. I mean, look how he can't even hug the family of this guy whose life he saved. So he never really shows Christine how much he cares for her.
This isn't the end. There are other things that can give your life meaning.
Like what? Like you?
But in What If, when he loses Christine, we see how much he loves her.
Oh no. I'm sorry. No.
So this wedding has to be heartbreaking for Steven. Another reminder of the life that he has left behind and the personal sacrifices that he has to make to protect reality. Again, going back to that watch. Creepy Raven! I really hope this movie lets Sam Raimi get back to his horror roots. Now, this person we see walking through the Sanctum is America Chavez. The TLDR on her is that she is a teenager who has the ability to travel throughout the multiverse. And, in the comics, she is one of the Young Avengers. Now, if you're a regular friend of this channel, then you know that the Young Avengers have been introduced in almost every Phase 4 show or movie so far. So it's only a matter of time before we see them together. Next, we see a shot of Wong, probably an alternate Wong, who is just seconds away from being eaten by a monster. Now, this shows a figure with a ponytail being thrown around by this energy. Now, this crackling energy, like a prism, seems lifted from how the Watcher visualizes the multiverse in What If.
They did it. They really did it. There's still hope.
So this could be a gateway to the multiverse, just like it was in that show. But this also looks a lot like America Chavez's powers in the comics. Or it could be the giant multiversal storm that we see a little later in the trailer. And then Steven checks in on Wanda. Finally, we spent all of WandaVision wondering why Doctor Strange wasn't doing anything to help with this big magical disturbance. In fact, at one point, the commercials in the show were going to be messages that Strange was sending to Wanda, but the creators cut that idea. The last time we saw Wanda, she was in a remote cabin, deep in her feelings, while her astral form was studying the super evil book, The Darkhold. Remember, that's the mega evil book that foretold that she would destroy the world. And then she heard the voices of her kids. Now, it looks like she's grown an orchard, maybe with her powers to experiment with creating life, to see if there's a way that she can bring back her sons.
I made mistakes, and people were hurt.
I'm not here to talk about Westview.
Well, maybe you should be here about Westview, Steve. It was a big deal. Instead, he asks for her help and says,
What do you know about the multiverse?
So why is he asking for Wanda's help? Well, Elizabeth Olsen did let it slip in an interview that Wanda has the power to travel between universes. So there's that. Strange can use her to help find the source of this disturbance. But let me throw out a crazy theory here. In the comics, Wanda is what's called a Nexus being. Now in the show Loki, a Nexus being is someone who creates an alternate reality.
Stepping off your path created a Nexus event, which left unchecked could branch off into madness.
But in the comics, they're more like constants, the spoke that the wheel spins around. Beings who are the same across any reality. WandaVision even hinted this was the case with Wanda in the commercial for Nexus.
Ask your doctor about Nexus, a unique antidepressant that works to anchor you back to your reality.
We saw in a flashback that when Wanda encountered the Time Stone, she actually saw a Scarlet Witch, her future self. One theory we had at the time is that this was the Scarlet Witch from another reality. Basically, that this entity, the Scarlet Witch, exists across the multiverse, and it's always bound to a Wanda Maximoff and will seek her out. If this is true, then Wanda has an innate connection to the multiverse that could help her travel between worlds. Now, Wanda's main motivation in this movie is going to be to find her kids.
I just want my kids back.
I don't think she'll care about anything else. Maybe she'll find them from a dimension where they can still exist, kind of like the show Fringe. I think it's more likely that when she created them, some part of them were actually real, and that part still exists somewhere in the multiverse, maybe in the same place the Scarlet Witch entity originated from. And then we get the trippy Doctor Strange visuals that we love. Strange, in what looks like a variant of Mordo, enters a gateway into a place where reality is all topsy-turvy. I have a few theories. First, this could be a reality that's been destroyed by whatever is threatening the multiverse, but I doubt it. To me, this looks more like the nexus of all realities. In the Marvel Comics, this is a place that exists as a gateway to other dimensions. It's a way for Strange and others to travel between worlds. So this Mordo apologizes to Steven.
I'm sorry, Steven.
Another reason that I think he is a variant. And then we see Kamar-Taj being consumed by a large cloud. So hold on, multiverse, big evil cloud, that sounds like Goliath. In the show Loki, he and Sylvie have to face down a big cloud that looks like a dog and consumes all of space and time. But remember how it was created.
That first variant encountered a creature created from all the tears in reality.
Now, he does say that these cracks were caused by the multiversal war, but I'm wondering if the very first cracks that started the creation of Goliath actually occurred in Avengers Endgame, when the Avengers traveled around and threatened reality.
Without our chief weapon against the forces of darkness, our world would be overrun.
He Who Remains wouldn't have minded this happening because he was able to weaponize Goliath to defeat his other Kang variants. And that would explain this line.
Not here to talk about the Avengers. What they did was supposed to happen.
So, after the events of Loki, there is no longer a TVA to prevent the multiversal war from happening. Kang the Conqueror is in the future meeting his multiversal selves, and they are going to war. That war creates cracks in the space-time that become Goliath. So this entire movie could just be the reverberations from that multiversal war. Then we see Wanda in full Scarlet Witch costume meditating in a summoning circle that we saw earlier in the trailer. Now, we saw a similar summoning circle in Waht If when Strange Supreme was consuming monsters. Now, Wanda, who is obsessed with saving her kids, is doing the same thing. Notice she even has the same markings under her eyes as Strange Supreme and Caecilius and his followers. To me, this indicates that she has reached out to the dark dimension, a place beyond time. It could even be that when her kids were removed from this plane of existence, that's where their consciousness went. Like Caecilius says,
"This world can take its rightful place alongside so many others as part of the one, the great and beautiful one."
This is what makes me think Wanda is the big bad of the movie. We're basically watching the origin story of Caecilius play out on the big screen, but at this time, it's with one of our heroes. So let's go over a few of these fast cuts. We see the Mordo variant fighting some version of Strange, an explosion at Kamar-Taj, which I'm betting is caused by Wanda's meditations. Then Strange in the Rex Sanctum levitating rubble with what looks like Wanda's chaos magic. Maybe he's showing her that he can use this magic too, but he doesn't because it's too dangerous. And then this version of Strange shooting tentacles from his arms, just like Strange Supreme did in Waht If. This monster that he's fighting on the streets of New York is Shuma-Gorath. Basically, it's a really old demon that exists in several different realities. We even theorize that it's the tentacle monster that Captain Carter fights in Waht If, and that it also appears in the finale. This shot of a maelstrom outside the sanctum makes me think again that this is Goliath, or at least it's the cracks in space-time that will eventually grow to become Goliath. I did think for a second that this was the castle of He Who Remains, but it's definitely the Sanctum Sanctorum. The pillars and the chandelier, they all match. It's definitely not the same room. And then the voiceover tells us that the greatest threat to the universe is you, as we get a live-action shot of Strange Supreme.
Things just got out of hand.
But Waht If ended with Strange Supreme being redeemed and watching over Ultron and Killmonger. So I don't think that this is your villain. I think that voiceover was addressing Wanda. But still, we'll get to see Benedict Cumberbatch team up with himself, kind of like how he faced off against Dormammu, a character that he voiced and did the mocap for. But what did you think of the trailer? Let me know your thoughts and theories down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.